You are now listening to the Business Chatter Podcast.
Welcome to episode number 2 of the Business Chatter Podcast.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Anthony.
And we're happy you're here with us today. Just to recap what we do, we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, value creation, team building, product management, startup to enterprise, and everything in between.
And today, everything that you should know as a founder going into your first meeting with a VC. Today, we're going to specifically talk about competition, business model, everything along those lines that you should know when meeting with them.
Absolutely. And just to re-emphasize, this is extremely valuable for startups, but also for small businesses. Putting your business in the best position to be understood, to communicate with investors and customers is going to allow for all of the best potential for success. And being able to answer these questions is extremely valuable.
Okay, cool. So now that we did the intro, Chris, I know you're a stand-up comic.
Oh, that's...
Are you doing any startup jokes at your next open mic?
That's actually a great question. I don't currently have anything written, but I do think that there's a lot of opportunity there. I do see a lot of pitch decks that startups provide as resources, as well as VCs and the leaders of funds talking in more depth online about the do's and don'ts. I do think that there's a humorous take on all of this, and maybe one day we'll be able to share it with our audience.
Now, doing the open mic at a coffee shop, right?
Yes.
You were telling me earlier, going to be lots of people around, people playing guitar on the side, people reading poetry, doing some slam poetry. At
That's
what
right.
point is it important for that individual trying to grow his brand as a guitarist to understand this stuff?
Oh, immediately. The thing that's very interesting about doing things solo, right? So think of an entrepreneur, think of a solopreneur, as they call it now, or anyone who's trying to build, even founders coming together. Your brand is still very important because it does precede you. If I see your name and I know who you are because of what you're doing, that's because you've put yourself out there, even if I'm seeking out certain information. So it's extremely important. And being able to understand what your plan is strategically, right? We talked about that last week, but we'll talk more into who is actually going to be enjoying your product, who's going to be buying it, who's going to be benefiting from it, and how are you going to actually generate revenue from doing this. Being able to answer these questions will put you on the path so you can actually take steps that are going to put you in the direction that leads to success.
So since the first topic we're going to talk about is market, how would you feel about a solo musician, an artist that you ran into at the coffee shop that covers Papa Roach? Are they hitting the market of what we should be looking for today? Or are they missing the mark there?
So that's a great question. Papa Roach does have a solid fan base. They actually put out a new album not too long ago.
That's why I asked.
And that's a good relevant. I actually made a joke about Papa Roach last weekend, so we're kind of we're connected on that. So will there be someone who appreciates Papa Roach? Absolutely. And if that's what they want to do, I'm absolutely not going to discourage you. However, if you're using the open mic to practice and get feedback on the skill, that's a great thing. You do need to be understanding of, is the market that you are performing for the market that is your target? Is the coffee shop the place where people are looking for Papa Roach covers, or is there a music venue that has an open mic, which is going to be more conducive to a certain style of music, a certain subset of bands, however that may be? Or can you leverage social media when you're comfortable to put those covers up there and help better target the population using hashtags and analytics to understand where you're putting yourself to make sure that people are finding you?
Okay.
Did that satisfy what you were looking for?
I thought you were just going to say, no, Papa Roach kind of sucks, and their new album, literally nobody cares about.
I have not heard the new album. I did see them live, and they were very good. This was a long time ago.
Energetic.
They were very energetic live. I did enjoy that, but this
also
was a long time
great
ago.
Music videos. Like if you look at their music videos from between the late 90s and 2002, 3, incredible energy. Them and Sum 41.
Oh yeah, Sum 41. The video of them with the guitar player coming out of the pool playing the solo.
Yeah,
That was
that's In Too Deep, right?
Yeah,
That's a really good music video.
definitely a good music video.
Um,
Go ahead. I'll reserve my comments for later.
okay, so
If anybody wants to talk music, send us a DM. I'm happy to do it.
we'll segue into market now. We just did a high level overview that was pretty insignificant to the podcast, but it piqued our interest.
Absolutely. Where you get to learn a little bit more about us in the process.
Yeah. So, as a founder going into a meeting with a VC, I think understanding the market is obviously really important. It kind of falls in line with everything we talked about last episode. And I think the first thing that a VC is going to look at and test your understanding on is growth opportunities in the market. The market is this, but where's the market going to end up? Where are the market trends heading?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're navigating a very unique time right now. The world, the world economy is in a unique position. Our country's economy, we're based in the United States, is in a unique position. We have political and societal pressures. All of these are impacting the ecosystem in which we operate in. So it would be unwise to not consider those things while still knowing that we are looking 3, 5, 10 years out for a trajectory of the way that we want the business to operate and the opportunities that we see. When we consider the market, let's just cut down to it. We need to be realistic, right? How big is the market? But then more in depth, how many potential buyers are there actually?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not expecting a number that ends, in 423, right? But we do need to have a general idea of, is there growth opportunity, and is the market big enough to even sustain the type of growth from an organizational forecasting perspective that will allow the business to be successful and profitable.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we touched on this last time too. I think it's a fatal flaw that a lot of organizations or founders show when they pitch a venture fund. A lot of them really overestimate the market, and it can show a few things. It can show arrogance, it can show ignorance, it can show lack of due diligence, lack of understanding.
Sure.
It shows one of them, and you need the VC to trust you going in. And if you can show a proper market assessment based on what they also find, because they're going to do due diligence on you as well if they think you're viable. It needs to be relatively realistic. You can't go in and say, I'm going to have education's a $40 billion market, like we said last time. Again, obviously, it's way bigger than that. But we think we're going to sell to $39.9 billion of it.
Yep.
That is just absolutely unrealistic, because even if you can capture if you have a product that has the potential to capture the entire market, you will not, because somebody else will come in.
Exactly. And someone is already there.
Yes.
Right. I think seltzer, right? Alcoholic seltzer is an interesting example there, where there was a few companies who were doing it. There was not much traction. A few companies with great marketing who sized the opportunity accurately were able to come in and grab market share. We saw some of the larger beer distributors identify that there's opportunity here, and they had the infrastructure to leverage and start to steal market share. So they either acquired a company or tried to do it themselves. And now at this point, there's all these niche companies that saw how big the market is and thought that they were going to get a meaningful piece of the overall buyer market. But that's not the case, right? We have incumbents that are there. We have new companies that are coming in, but there's not a lot of disruption in the industry. The disruption was the seltzer coming in. Now that you're just another seltzer company, how does it differentiate you? And we'll talk about differentiation as we go a little bit further, but you have to have a realistic addressable market from the sense of your products fit in the overall market as well as your company's fit within that existing market.
Yeah, exactly. And I think on top of that, you need to have a realistic market entry plan. Who your partners are going to be, who you're going to sell into. You have to be realistic about that. If you're a business if you're a founder that's targeting an idea that's going to be B2B, like, you have to understand how you're going to enter that market and why you're not going to target B2C or B2G, something along those lines, and who your strategic partners are going into that, or who you have the potential to partner with to help sell your product. I think those are all really important. And I think people, they have this idea for a grand product, but they don't really have an idea of a market entry around it. Say we develop a Coursera product, and the primary like you have to understand at first, who are you going to sell into? Are you going to sell into individuals? Or are you going to sell into organizations? And like, what makes the most sense and why does it make the most sense from a market standpoint? Like that's something that's really important that is usually very understated in initial pitches.
Absolutely. And those are great points. Another piece of this, outside of exactly what a VC may ask, but they're going to gather this while you're having these conversations. Do you have these relationships? Because you can think it through, but you need to establish them. Are there already channels, partner channels that you're developing, that you're growing? Are there cross-functional relationships between alliances and strategic partners that you currently have to see where another partner of theirs may actually benefit from what you're doing, and you can bring them into the process or have them be a third-party beneficiary of the way that things are operating? We don't have to get into the weeds there. We will absolutely talk about partnerships, strategy, alliances in the future. However, if you have zero network, there is no connection, there are no partnerships that are being built, your entry point is not going to be as wide, number one, but it'll be a much larger hill to climb to be able to do it alone. You unfortunately do need some type of access point that's outside of what you're doing to, at the very least, help investors feel more comfortable and make customers more aware of what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think moving on from understanding the market, I think understanding your business model is obviously really important. We talked about it in the first episode, where you can have a great idea and a great product, but if you can't execute, you're never going to be successful, which again is why we think a great team is almost just as important, if not more important, than a great idea or product, because you can always build something that's strong and functional around a great team. But having a strong business model goes hand in hand with that.
Absolutely.
It goes right into execution. And I think understanding the key points you need to hit to have a functional and successful business model to drive your product and drive growth of your venture is really important. And it's really important to show the fund.
Absolutely. Believe what Glenn Ross potentially, or another, or Boiler Room, right? Always be selling, right? That's always be closing, pardon me, but always be selling, right?
I've never seen that movie.
Well, you should.
It's funny. So my old boss, Chris's current coworker, Joe, used to always tell me to watch that movie. He's like, you don't even know what hard is. You should watch these guys in this movie. It's like, it is just something to behold. Never watched it.
I watched it in the first sales job I was in. I'm very glad I did. And it made me appreciate what I was doing, and even more so now, for sure. If you haven't seen it, it's worth watching. It gives you the glimpse into what, the grind can be and the way that, business is operated.
The hamster wheel that is, no matter what role you are in any job of a professional career, it will be a hamster wheel, whether you're going from sales to biz dev to product. Once you finish what you're on, the next thing will start immediately.
Absolutely. And it's of vital importance because it matters to more than just you, right? Every piece of the machine is running. And that's what makes it really difficult for small businesses, for startups, because a lot of times you're wearing so many hats, but you have to keep a picture in your mind of what the vision and strategy is. And the thing that you're executing on this side of the business, the thing you're executing on the other side, you're relying on another founder or partner to get things done. Again, it kind of leads back to why partnerships are so valuable, why understanding the market is so valuable, because you know where you have to go and what that next hill to climb is. But, the reason I brought up the, always be closing is sales is everyone's job in the beginning piece, right? Even from a product perspective, when you're talking to outside vendors and third parties and consultants, or, building a team, like, you need to sell what this is, and people need to be engaged and want to be part of this, pushing it forward. Knowing your numbers is a very important thing from a sales perspective, from a revenue and sales ops viewpoint. But do you know what your price is? How much does your product cost? How much does your service cost? What is the price per unit? Is this a recurring model, or is this one-off sales that you're just hoping to gather a ton of these? And of course, there's a plenty of questions that we can go further down the road with: cost of acquisition, what is the retention time frame of a customer? Does a customer stay with you forever, or does a customer fall off at some point? And when that customer attrition takes place, how are you replacing that? What is the cost to then replace them?
And then I think jumping further, even understanding the revenue based on that. So not only what you're driving through baseline business, but how much revenue are you pulling in? Where are you making your money as a business? Like it's really important to understand, again, your product and your service, your average price per unit. Is your revenue based on renewals or not? But like, what is that projected revenue for you? And again, realistic with growth anticipated, like having something that shows we expect it to be here now, here next year, here in 2 years, here in 3 years, and how much and what part of the business is going to be driven by X and Y, whether it be new business, whether it be renewal models, whether it be recurring subscriptions, etc. And having a baseline that you can show these venture funds that are then going to test your model, or at least review your model and do due diligence on your model and say this is realistic or this is unrealistic.
Absolutely. When you think of VC, a lot of times you think of, once you get some capital injection, there's rapid growth, there's scale, right? You're becoming a unicorn. All these words get thrown around and everybody wants to be the company that's valued at 20, 40, $100 billion. Not every company gets there, and not every company needs to get there. You don't need to be built to be a unicorn in order to be successful. This goes back to when you're working with a VC company, you're finding that their intentions and their values align with yours, right? Where does your company want to go? They want a return, obviously, but is the return reasonable? Is it so out of range that you're just taking the money because you need it and now you're never going to meet these expectations? Do you have ideas on how you're going to increase your revenue or how you're going to offset operational costs? When we think about the idea of scale, you're pitching a VC, you don't need to know what's going to happen in year 10, but you do need to understand that as scale happens, so do the cost of expenses. And fortunately, we'll have another section where we can dig into this, but your business model does need to account for the way that your business is going to progress moving forward. And without having all of these ducks that we've discussed in a row, it's going to be very difficult to be able to forecast what success, semi-success, and potential failure actually look like and be able to pivot and recover.
And it's going to be fluid. You're not going to have a set business model. Your business model from day one is going to be likely drastically different from your business model on day 200 and day 400 and year 2 and year 3.
Absolutely.
And not until you get to the point where you're actually driving significant returns on investment for yourself and the investors is your business model really going to be set in place. There's businesses that I've worked with that have gotten hundreds of millions of dollars in venture funding. Whether they've been successful or not, I'm not going to say, but their business model is still evolving, and they've been relevant for 5-6 years in the eyes of their investors. And I think it's important to be very fluid in that and understand, what's going to change to drive revenue. And even as you grow, right, the market is ever evolving. And if you want to stay relevant, I mean, look at a company like Amazon. Amazon started as basically an e-shop.
Yeah, bookstore.
And I mean, look at AWS as their largest revenue driver. I mean, their business model has changed substantially, and they're the second largest in the Fortune 500, third largest company in the world. There has to be substantial fluidity. Anybody that's locked in their ways, you may be successful short term, but long term, the venture will not work.
Absolutely. We're writing in pencil here. This entire time, we're writing in pencil. And the good thing is that you can fix those mistakes and adjust and pivot as the world turns. Similar to the Amazon example, Netflix, right? Initial revenue stream was you rented a DVD from them and then you would eventually send it back. Now they have a subscription model where you're set up and you're streaming. Are people actually still ordering DVDs? Maybe, maybe not. But that's not the point. It's the fact that they were able to evolve with what the market told them and what their customers were telling them. And they were able to find a way to make that meaningful. No one's happy with the increase in the cost of the subscription. But at the end of the day, you're not going to individually be able to acquire the cache of content that they offer. So they know that it is sustainable. And there's cyclicality. Is that a word? There's cycles to this.
They're cyclic.
Cyclic?
I think so.
Well,
it sounds weird when you say it, right?
Right?
Cyclic. Yeah.
All right. Well, tell us what you think, if that's a word or not. But and how do we make this valuable for the small business owner who you own a plumbing business, right? Or you own a pizza shop. are there ways to make your price adjust to make it make more sense? Are there ways to adjust sales cycles? Are there ways to offer some type of benefit of membership?
Do you know
Right?
what like restaurants and bars should do? They should, or what movie companies should do? They should partner with restaurant and bars, sell them the rights to like the new Marvel movies that come out, and make like a bar experience like the Super Bowl. Have everybody go out and just get super hyped to watch the new Avengers.
That's a great idea.
Charge them like 20 grand, and then make everybody pay like a $300 cover to come in.
Mm-hmm. You get early access. You get to see the movie in a comfortable place.
You get food, and everybody just going crazy when Thor smashes Thanos.
That's a great idea. And
a lot of people wouldn't like it, but I feel like it's a very frat move. Like college,
there's people who would. And this brings us right back to our market.
By the way, I'm kidding. I don't know if it's viable at all. Like, I put zero thought into that. Chances are it's probably not at all. But hey, if anybody, I said it first.
Contact us if you're trying to get this in place.
Listen here.
Well, but to that point, there was a time where there was one game on that you could watch, right? And the local bar would put it on. Now, for large sporting events, they have packages, right? That's a subscription that the bar, like you said, has to pay a large amount for. And they have a pretty understandably set market that's going to come in and take advantage of that. Not everybody wants to watch the game at the bar. People want to watch it at home. However, there's people who do want to watch it socially. Why is that not applicable in a different circumstance, right? You go to movie premieres, you go to previews, you go to screenings, why not try that? It's, again, we're not saying you have to do this.
I mean, dine-in theaters are a thing. Just take it one step. Like,
take it one step.
Pictures and pool.
Yep.
And Avengers.
Exactly. Take it one step in the other direction. Think if you want to launch a documentary, imagine you were able to team up with a local restaurant and you have people that come in, they're eating, they're drinking, they have all of the benefits of the social element, plus you're able to get your product out in front of them. And if there's a small subset that takes away from there, at least you're building a base. You're able to develop that personal brand. You're able to drive forward value, and people can appreciate what you're doing. Plus, the restaurant has a chance to, really differentiate themselves as to what they're doing and how they're doing it. Again, we're not pursuing that. Let's, if you want to talk about this idea further, we'd love to chat with you.
Email us.
But email us
at businesschatterpod.com.
That's right.
We will respond.
We will respond.
Yeah.
All right.
So that should be our tagline. We will respond.
I mean, we're establishing it. Let's
get it trending on Twitter, guys.
Yeah.
Hashtag we will respond.
We will respond.
It's going to turn into some weird cult thing. We're really going to regret it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if we got enough followers to start our own little Business Chatter Pod cult?
We will respond.
We will respond. I mean, I can imagine a whole bunch of people in a dark room with hoods on going, we will respond.
Well, that's a cool shirt though, right? But like have a little logo here and then it says we will respond. Maybe that'll be coming soon.
I'm all for it.
Make sure you're subscribing and liking so that way we know that you're out there and we can, help better cater. Obviously, the most important thing is what we're talking about.
If we got really big, right? Our follower base is, really supportive.
Mm-hmm.
They really promote us. We get really big. We'll have to still respond. What if we're getting like 1 million emails a day? We can't have our whole thing be we will respond and not respond. That ruins our whole shtick.
Well,
we'll have to hire somebody to respond for us.
What a good problem to have.
I know, right?
Because if we're growing, that means that the business plan that we put together is working.
We're understanding the market.
We're growth.
We're understanding the opportunity, the competition,
exactly.
The business model.
The business model. All of these things are pushing through. And that actually is a great way to jump right into the last topic of today is competition. So
we will respond. The competition might not.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it. Differentiators.
That's right. Differentiation. What competitive advantage is so important? We're going to spend an entire episode on that. But understanding what your competitive advantage is,
customer service,
is the difference between, honestly, success and failure, right? There's so many other elements, but that's it. Customer service, for example, we will respond. If you could clone us to be not as good looking, but also have a podcast.
In a podcast, that could be a competitive advantage. Like, we're handsome fellas. Says our mothers.
Says our moms do say that. Thanks, moms. But if exactly what we were doing, somebody else was doing, and they didn't respond and we did, that's a competitive advantage. Is that scalable across the board? Yes and no. However, you're going to go to the company with the better customer service. You're going to maybe go to the store where people interact with you in a more favorable way. Nobody likes the DMV because of the way that you get treated, right?
I mean, That's a generalization. They're a large organization. No, I know what you're saying. There's some really nice
Is
people at DMV by me, though.
Absolutely, there are very nice people, and
We're not.
unfortunately, they're the outlier
You
in
are the
certain
outlier.
circumstances, right? And obviously that's a different circumstance. It's not a private business, but if you go to a restaurant, the hostess doesn't greet you, they sit you down, the table's kind of dirty, you ask for a straw, you never get the straw. Like, are you going to go back if you have another option where all of those needs are met?
Well, it could be that restaurant that treats you like garbage. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? The one in Vegas?
Oh, yes.
You like pay them to
Yes,
treat you
yes,
like garbage?
yes. Well, that's if you're there and they don't treat you badly,
Then
then you're not going to go back. There's also one
maybe
in Baltimore.
our shtick should be bad customer service.
So we don't answer.
We don't answer.
But we tell people we're going to answer.
Yeah, a lot of misleading information. Are we allowed to swear? I mean, I feel like a little bit. Like there's give and take, right?
Well, I think we have to think about like monetization rules. We have to dig into that. We can also we could bleep it. That's going to cost us money to bleep it. Now that's pixelation. Pixelation is very expensive.
Is it?
Yeah, pixelation very expensive because you have to do every frame.
Mm.
Well, we don't have to worry about that.
I'm surprised that's still a thing. I thought you could just like download an app and just like put it in, say pixelize. Like you literally just have to say it, pixelize, and it does it for you.
Did we just come up with an app idea? That's two ideas. One,
guys, we're giving money to our followers.
Please,
like we're not even going to sue. We might sue you.
There's someone on Instagram who makes beats and he says steal these beats and he plays them and he tells you what key, what the tempo is, and he plays them so you could see exactly how it's played and he wants people to do something with it.
That's what we want from you guys.
Shout out to him. I'll put his Instagram in the show notes so you could check it out if you're interested. But I'll digress. When we're thinking about competition, yes, we want to have a competitive advantage. We need to differentiate. Depending on what your business is there a way that you remain competitive? And if so, how do you do that?
Really important because again, you have to take into account evolving markets and companies that are teetering on your market that are certainly going to enter if you are successful.
Absolutely.
And first of all, what is their barrier to entry right now? Why have they not done it? But also what are going to be yours? Understanding why there isn't a real, if there is no real competitive market that you're getting into presently, why?
Absolutely. And there's analysis that you can do, right? There's the Pestel analysis. There's the 5 forces analysis. There's plenty that you'll learn in business school. You can SWOT. You can
take it back.
Yeah, SWOT.
I mean, it's useful as just a visual tool. I mean, even working at a VC fund, I mean, we put a SWOT analysis in our due diligence. Like it seems very simple, but when you put it on paper and look at it, you're like, it kind of makes sense.
Definitely. You're able to put things together. Those are all great things to Google, to understand, to take a look at, and continually reevaluate the business as you pivot and evolve because things continue to change. Thanks.
I thought you were about to say.
I was very close. Yeah. And then also, depending on the type of business that you are, do you have IP? Do you have patents? Do you have trademarks? If you do have those things, those are differentiators. Yes.
Especially patents.
You have a lot of protection. You have a lot of time to continue to develop and grow, and you could build upon them. But at the end of the day, if there isn't much that your business can do to differentiate what your actual product or service is, think of a pizza shop, right? There's only so much pizza shops are going to be able to do to be different from the next pizza shop. Where are the levers that you can do? Is it customer service? Is it ambiance? Is it events at night? Is it making a relationship so you can stream a movie? Is it an outdoor space? Is it a family day? Right. All of these things create the small community and engage your market and your customer base in a way that wants them to come back and then be advocates for your brand.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So that was the last formal topic we wanted to hit on. I wanted to talk about 2 other things that you should just bear in mind when you're meeting with investors. Investors are essentially creditors to your business, right? I think having your finances squared away are really important. You don't want to be going into meetings with venture funds and swimming in credit card debt or in past due car payments or anything, because even if you have a really squared away great idea and team, you're a liability to them and it takes away your viability as an investment to them. Also, don't be under litigation. Nobody will invest in you if you have any ongoing litigation against you. They both sound easier said than done.
Of course.
I think the litigation one is probably easier to avoid as long as you don't do anything like crazy stupid. But I think also having copious amounts of debt can lead to litigation.
Sure.
And also having copious amounts of debt is driven by life circumstances. And I'm not here to judge anybody's circumstances, but finances in order is certainly very helpful. And there's resources that can help with that beforehand. And you don't want anything that's going to be more of a financial drain on you. And a lot of times startups are very consuming monetarily and time wise. And if you're already in debt, a venture investor is not going to expect you to make any money off the organization. And they're also going to be giving you hundreds of thousands, if not tens of millions of dollars or more. They're not going to trust you with their money. So it becomes certainly a situation you want to address on the front end.
Definitely. And to that point, just to reiterate this, it's not a judgment call. It's a fact of process. And, everyone's circumstance is different. There are individuals who have gone from, living in their car to building $100 million fund. There are individuals who have built it from scratch and have done it. The putting yourself in the best possible position has been a theme we've talked about for 2 episodes now. This is just another element of that. If you are able to pay that off, if you are able to avoid some of those situations, there is a harsh reality of having to judge based on a financial decision rather than an emotional decision.
Yeah, it's just a barrier to entry. It's just
absolutely
like applying to colleges. You can be really, really smart, but if your transcript says 2.5 GPA coming out of high school, you're not going to get into Harvard. You could be the smartest person in the world.
Definitely.
They're judging you off that. And
yep.
You can be really financially savvy, really, really business oriented, really understand strategy and value creation. But life circumstances happen and you have a bajillion dollars in credit card debt.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be difficult for you.
Definitely. And the transparency, as mentioned, it's better to say the hard truth than the easy lie. The transparency does at least put you in the position where it's not a got you. You don't get down the road and have wasted someone's time. And there's definitely going to be investors, VCs, customers that are understanding of those circumstances that, may give you the chance. But we do need to be realistic in the sense of, that impression on paper is going to be an impression. And we talked about last week, the first impression is really going to end up sealing the deal for you, depending on the way that it goes.
Litigation, not as flexible on.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Was there something else, or that was for the 2 topics?
Those were it.
Okay.
I just thought they were important. I was kind of thinking about them as we were going through. It's like, I don't know if I should mention them or not. They're not like super tangible to each topic that we talked on, but they kind of intertwine.
Absolutely.
And I feel like they kind of go without saying, but like a lot of people don't realize like they build their business. And like we've both seen it working, in the non-traditional finance sector. Like people put themselves in a ton of debt to grow their business.
Absolutely.
And it's like not a fault of their own. Like they have a passion, they're trying to do it, but they don't realize the repercussions. Like when they're going to raise money, they're like, oh shoot, like I have a 400 FICO and I'm defaulting on loans because like I thought I was going to be super successful right away, and it just didn't happen like that. And now I'm kind of stuck.
Sure.
Don't get stuck.
And hopefully these tips, right, these questions, having these answers can ease some of the difficulty when it comes to getting a business off the ground, because it is very difficult. There is no question.
And don't have dumb excuses for getting stuck either, because we used to see it all the time. And there's not like, again, they can be empathetic, but they're only going to be so empathetic and they can kind of see through it. Don't be like, well, it's going to be paid. Like, and I thought it was paid, just own it.
Own it. That's honesty. You learn this as a kid, right? Honesty is the best policy. It's not always pretty, but the transparency, it builds your credibility. If you are speaking to an investor, to a customer, you own the situation, you tell them forthrightly and honestly what the situation is, then you could build a path to move forward on a bridge that has a foundation. If you lie and get away with it once, you have to remember the lie, you have to figure out a way to fix it, and then you have to hope it doesn't happen again. And more likely than not, you're going to lie again, and you're going to get yourself deeper in a hole that has ramifications now, not only for you, but for your organization, for your customers, for your investors, for your employees, for your family. it's
it's a small world too.
It's a very small world.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we don't want to end on a low note by any capacity. So maybe we'll bring it up a little bit for the last piece here. But these are all things that can be overcome, and there's resources that are in place to be able to help with that. If you do have trouble finding those resources, reach out. We will answer. We want to help.
We will respond.
We will respond. We are building a community. We want you to be part of that, and we appreciate the fact already that you've taken time to be with us today. You want to wrap it up?
I mean, I don't want to, because then I have to drive home.
Well, let's say
I'm gonna go to Whole Foods. There's a Whole Foods over here.
There is.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Really expensive though.
That's
Chris does all his grocery shopping there because he's rich. Yeah.
I actually don't do all my grocery shopping there. I'm not rich.
You're right. They deliver it to you.
Yeah.
From Whole Foods. He pays extra because he doesn't want to leave his throne.
Yeah. I have them fly it over. They helicopter it over.
Yeah. There's a landing pad in his backyard and a pumpkin patch.
The pumpkin patch is true.
Yeah.
I do have a pumpkin patch.
He does.
I'll take some pictures and we'll share it on the Instagram.
I have nothing.
Not yet.
I have water in my backyard.
Yeah, you can't put a pumpkin patch.
I mean, I could.
There. I mean, it would be difficult.
That would be awesome. Bay pumpkin patch.
Next year.
Yeah.
I'll help you plant it.
We'll do it.
And we'll blog it.
Yeah. So on that note, a higher note, thank you for tuning in, watching, liking, subscribing. We will respond. Email us at businesschatterpod, host at businesschatterpod.com. Follow us on Instagram. Send us a DM. We will respond.
We will respond.
At businesschatterpod. Again, Chris?
Your time is valuable.
No, you were supposed to say we will respond.
Oh, we will respond.
Yeah, okay. All right, now
we will respond. Yeah. Hold on, you say it now.
We will respond.
We will.
Yeah.
Respond. Your time is very valuable. We really do appreciate that you're spending it with us. We are here to build this community, and as we move forward, we will continue to drive as much value as we possibly can. We're going to have great guests on. We're going to speak to small businesses. We're going to speak to enterprise businesses, VCs, startups, you name it. We're going to do it. Send us ideas, interact with us. Let us know what you want to see more of, what you don't like. The Business Chatter Podcast. Consider us your crash course on value creation through the eyes of individuals who have done it before.
Absolutely. Hey, should we do a hot tub stream like Twitch? All right, we'll end it there.
We'll see you next time.